Today, we're tackling the fall of the mighty Aztec Empire, one of the most sudden and shocking collapses in all of history. It really sounds like something out of a fantasy story, right? How could a few hundred soldiers possibly bring down an empire of millions? Well, let's break down exactly how it happened. So, where does this incredible story even begin? Well, it all starts with one guy, a Spanish explorer named Hernan Cortes, whose personal ambition was about to change the world forever. You know, Cortes came from a respectable family, and his parents actually wanted him to be a lawyer. But he found that life incredibly boring. He was way more interested in the stories of gold and adventure coming from the Americas. And at just 19 years old, he sailed off to find his own destiny. Fast forward to 1519. By this point, Cortes is ready to make his big move. He gets together 11 ships, a few hundred soldiers, and sets sail from Cuba, heading for the totally unknown lands of the mainland. This was it, the beginning. Okay, so as soon as they land, Cortes does something that is just unbelievably bold. He orders his men to burn their own ships. I mean, think about that for a second. The message was crystal clear. There is no going back. The only way out was forward, deeper into a continent they knew almost nothing about. Now, let's be real. Cortes and his few hundred soldiers were completely, totally outnumbered. They knew they couldn't do this alone. If they were going to survive, let alone succeed, they absolutely had to find some local help. As they pushed inland, they ran into the Tlaxcalans, a really powerful indigenous nation. At first, they fought some pretty intense battles. But then the Tlaxcalans made a huge strategic decision. They looked at the Spanish and didn't just see invaders, they saw potential allies against an enemy they hated even more, the Aztecs. This alliance, it was an absolute game changer. It gave Cortes thousands of experienced warriors who knew the land inside and out. But you know what's wild? Cortes's most important ally wasn't a warrior at all. It was a young indigenous woman named Melinson. She was given to the Spanish, but her incredible intelligence and skills quickly made her maybe the most essential person on the entire expedition. And here's the thing you really have to get about Melinson. She wasn't just translating words, she was translating entire cultures. Because she could speak multiple languages, she allowed Cortes to navigate the really complex political landscape, negotiate those critical alliances, and gather vital intelligence. Honestly, without her, the entire mission probably would have just crashed and burned. So, with their new allies leading the way, the Spanish finally got close to their ultimate goal, the legendary Aztec capital Tenochtitlan. And what they saw, it just blew them away. These soldiers had never seen anything like it. This wasn't some simple village. It was a sprawling, sophisticated metropolis that could go toe-to-toe with the greatest cities back in Europe. I mean, the city itself was an absolute masterpiece of engineering. Think about this. It's built on an island in the middle of a lake, connected by these huge, wide roads. It was packed with enormous stone temples and palaces, had super clean streets, and even a complex canal system for getting around. Plus, its marketplaces were just enormous and buzzing with activity. This place was the heart of a seriously powerful civilization. So how do you feed hundreds of thousands of people in a city that's built on a lake? Well, the Aztecs came up with an absolutely brilliant solution, chinampas, or what you might call floating gardens. They literally built these man-made islands on the lake so they could grow crops all year round. Just an ingenious way to solve a huge problem. But even though they were welcomed, Cortes started to feel trapped, like a guest in a golden cage. So he makes another incredibly risky move. He decides to kidnap the Aztec emperor, Montezuma. The plan was to hold him hostage right in his own palace, hoping that by controlling the leader, he could control the entire empire and demand a fortune in gold. As you can imagine, this made things tense, really tense. Yeah, that huge gamble, it backfired, big time. The people of Tenochtitlan were furious, and suddenly the Spanish weren't guests anymore. They were prisoners, trapped deep inside a very angry city. Their only choice was to try a desperate escape in the middle of the night. This disastrous escape became known as the Noche Triste, which means the Night of Sorrows. As the Spanish tried to sneak out of the city in the dark, Aztec warriors swarmed them from every direction. It was absolute chaos. The Spanish losses were just devastating. More than half of Cortes's soldiers were killed, along with most of their valuable horses. And the real kicker? So many of his men drowned in the lake because they were weighed down by all the gold they were trying to steal. The very treasure they came for ended up killing them. It was a complete and utter disaster. But here's the thing about Cortes. He did not give up. The survivors limped back to their allies in Tlaxcala, and he spent months regrouping, gathering thousands more warriors and planning his final assault. But during that time, something else had arrived, a silent enemy. A weapon far more deadly than any sword or cannon was now spreading through the Aztec Empire. Smallpox. See, the Aztec people had never, ever been exposed to this European disease, so they had zero natural immunity. The virus just ripped through Tenochtitlan, killing an enormous number of people, from warriors to leaders. More than any weapon, the empire was being crippled from the inside. So now, with a massive army of allies and a weakened enemy, Cortes lays siege to Tenochtitlan. He has ships built to take control of the lake, he cuts off all the causeways, and he blocks the aqueducts. No food, no fresh water could get into the city. It was a brutal 80-day stranglehold. This combination, disease, starvation, and non-stop attacks, it was just too much for the city's defenders to handle. This was the final, tragic chapter for the Aztec Empire. So after 80 long days of what was really a heroic but ultimately hopeless defense, the great city finally fell in August of 1521. When the last emperor, Cuauhtémoc, was captured, it was officially over. The Aztec Empire was gone, and on its ruins, the Spanish would begin to build a new colony, New Spain. So you see, the fall of the Aztecs wasn't just a simple military victory. It was this perfect storm of strategy, crucial alliances, and most devastating of all, disease. This event led to the birth of modern Mexico, a nation built from the blend of European and indigenous cultures. But it leaves us with a big, heavy question to think about. What is gained and what is forever lost when one world is built on the ruins of another?